How have you been?
I have been well. I'm
You've been
tired,
well.
but I've been well. Um, had holiday.
Yeah, I know.
That was nice. It was roasting out there.
Was it?
Oh, it was so hot.
Oh, yeah, Claire said actually. It's like 40 odd degrees or something.
Yeah, it just kept getting like hotter and hotter. Like the
Mm.
longer we were out there, I was like, oh, it's so hot. But yeah, it was nice. It's never long enough though, is it? Like when it's time for you to come home, you think, oh, that's gone so fast.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
How was your birthday? Because I
Yeah, it
don't
was
know.
nice, thank you. I forgot
Don't
about
think
that.
I don't think I've spoken to you since then.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of Yarmouth?
Oh, we didn't end up going Yarmouth in the end.
Oh,
No, because Josie's mum called and she was like, "Do you want to come round for a barbecue on your
oh.
birthday?" So I was like,
Yeah. Food.
"Absolutely."
Food cooked for me
So,
outside. Yes.
uh-huh. Right, random blam, go.
Um, in 2007, in 2007, I had a brain tumor and I had it removed, and
Uh-huh.
it's all good. And they didn't remove my crazy, which is nice. They couldn't find that. That was it. That was everywhere. They were like, can't get
Somewhere
that
else.
out.
It's too
Yeah.
big a job that was.
Yeah. Random
Yeah.
blam. Go.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know why it was like a good idea to put these in because
Oh, no, we never think of them.
I can't think. Right, random blam.
Ooh.
Josie got a doll's house about 2 years ago. Really, really big, massive, old doll's house.
Sounds
Um,
terrifying.
it was for free, and she was like, "Oh, I'll have it." And he's been sitting in the garage for like 2 years untouched. And we got it in the other day because we're turning it into a Harry Potter themed doll's
Oh,
house. So
that's a great idea.
we've just started doing up the rooms, and last night we was making little tiny mini cauldrons for the potions room.
That's
Um,
very cool.
so that's yeah,
Are you going to
we're
put
doing
like fairy lights through it? And
yeah. So we're gonna do like the Great Hall,
oh yeah,
Dumbledore's office, like all different places that are in the castle, and we're gonna make it look castle-y and not sort of
that's a
housey.
great idea.
Yeah. Now, whether it actually pans out how we want it to pan out is a different story, but based on the cauldrons that we made last night as well,
It's not going to be good, is it?
not going to be great. Mediocre at best.
Mediocre.
We'll give it a go.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be
Yeah,
glorious.
glorious. I know.
I've got some Walking Dead figures. I could have them outside attacking the castle.
That's nothing to do with Harry Potter, though, is it?
No,
What are you doing?
well,
That you're not part of
thought
this, mate.
thought I could join in.
No. Step back.
I'm sending my zombies.
You're like Phoebe, you know, when Monica has a dollhouse
Oh yeah,
brings dinosaurs. The aroma room.
exactly. Oh, well, it will be. I've got my oil, won't I? I'm ready for my aroma room next to the potions room. It's going to be a giant explosion. And then I'll bring in a great big fire truck. All right,
Yeah.
I won't get involved in that. Fine.
Thank you. Appreciate that. If I need your help, I'll ask. Don't worry. I'm sure you've got some great
That's
ideas going
very
on.
passive aggressive thing going on there. If I need your help, I'll beat it out of you.
Yeah. Until then, I can stay out.
All right, great. Random blams done.
Done.
We would like to say a huge thank you to Flamingo Cottage in North Yorkshire. And that's Dave and Sarah. And they bought us 2 coffees. So
Yeah.
here's mine. There's Sarah's.
Always looking
So
sharp.
they said, hi both. We love listening to your podcast. So enjoy a coffee on us. Have a great week, Dave and Sarah.
Oh, you
So
have a
nice.
great week,
Yes,
Dave and
you
Sarah.
have a Dave
You
and
have
Sarah.
fun.
You have a great week. Have a great
Yeah.
month. And we're sorry this is late, but as we've said before, Sometimes we record like a week ahead, and
2 weeks ahead and things.
And in this case, it's been like 2 weeks ahead because I had holiday and Sarah had birthday, and she's been making little cauldrons and things. But
Got other stuff to do.
Cauldrons to make.
Yeah.
So Dave and Sarah, thank you.
Yes, and
That is
also
much appreciated.
Auntie Lel. Thank
Auntie
you.
Lel.
Another shout out to Auntie Lel because she did buy us some coffees as well.
Oh, thanks, Auntie Lel.
Yeah, we love Auntie Lel.
We love a bit of Auntie Lel, don't we?
We do.
Cheers, Auntie Lel.
No, but today
I haven't said morning yet.
Oh,
what's the matter with you?
Sorry.
Down.
Sorry.
Right. Morning.
Morning.
It is.
All right.
It is proper morning as well. Isn't it?
Oh my god, it's so early. My eyes are hanging out my head.
I had to set the alarm and everything.
I am sorry. But this is the first morning in a long time that I've woken up and been able to string a sentence together.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can still, but we'll find out.
Well, today's episode is it's on a subject that we've covered before, but this is oh god, when I came across it, I was like mind blown because it's just so compelling. And you know how skeptic I am about these things. And it's James Leininger, and it is about his memory, sort of reincarnation of his past life. So from a very early age, little James Leininger, he had an obsession with aircrafts, and he would play with nothing else but old World War II like fighter planes, you know, like the really cool like bombers and things. And he was just absolutely obsessed with them. And so, like any good parent would do, they encouraged when your child shows a love for something, you inundate them, you know, like a nan when they say, oh, when you go, oh, I love Oreos, and then they buy you every flavor of Oreo there ever was. You've got Oreo bedding, Oreo curtains.
They really roll with it, don't they?
So that's what James's parents did. So a few months before James's second birthday, his dad Bruce took him to the Kavanaugh Flight Museum, which was in Texas, and they have there loads of different exhibitions of different aeroplanes and things like that. And James was specifically interested in the World War II exhibit, so much so that they stayed there for 3 hours just in this one section of the museum. And whenever his dad was sort of like, come on, let's move along, let's get to the next one, James would throw an absolute tantrum, and he didn't want to leave at all. So I think what Bruce did in the end was he kind of bribed him, you know, let's go to the shop what's the shop where you buy stuff from? The gift shop. Let's go to the gift shop. And so while he was there, Bruce bought James some little toy airplanes from the gift shop, and he would play with them every day, like flying them through the air. But what he did most of all was that he would fly them through the air and then crash them into the ground, like over and over, and they were all busted up and dented and stuff. But he absolutely loved just flying them through the air and crashing them into any sort of surface. Soon after, when James sort of turned 2, soon after his second birthday, he started having horrendous nightmares that his mum and dad said that they were like night terrors. And I don't know if you've experienced a night terror. They're awful.
I haven't.
That you can't kind of wake them up from a night terror. They don't know that they're kind of awake, but they don't know that it's you, and it's awful.
I have night Mothman.
Mothman.
Yeah, so I wake up going, oh, Mothman. That's about it.
Yeah, little James's nightmares were not like that.
They weren't
His
like that.
mum, Andrea, said that he would be like screaming, and it wasn't just like a scared scream, it was a panic scream. And he'd be kicking out his legs and his arms, and she'd kind of try and wake him up, and he'd just be screaming like, aeroplane crash on fire, little man can't get out. And that's just what he would repeat. Little man can't get out, little man can't get out. And he'd be thrashing his arms and his legs as if he was kind of like fighting for his life. And she said it was though like he'd be laying dead on his back and he'd be kicking his legs up as if he was trying to kick the lid off a box. And it was actually, you know, after these nightmares kind of continued for a little while, Andrea, his mum, was kind of at a bit of a loss of, you know, what's going on. And it was actually Andrea's mum that first brought up the idea of reincarnation. And she said that James could well be remembering a past life. But the Leiningers were American, born and bred. They were Southerners. They absolutely did not believe in such things as reincarnation. Now, you normally hear of reincarnation stories in areas that believe in reincarnation, and that they're a lot more popularized in those locations because of their beliefs and their religion and things. And the Leiningers absolutely did not believe in it either. So Andrea was obviously very doubtful about the reincarnation, but James, it just kept revealing these sort of like little details of things that he just shouldn't know at his age. And she said that when James was around 2.5, she'd taken him shopping and she'd seen a little toy aeroplane on a shelf, and she just, you know, pushing him in the trolley, and she just innocently says, "Oh, look, James, that one's got a little bomb on the bottom." And he just kind of looks at her and goes, "Mum, that's a drop tank." And she was like,
"What?
What's a drop tank?"
Yeah.
She hadn't even heard of what a drop tank was.
I'm not sure I have.
He absolutely should not have known what a drop tank was. Now, I looked up what a drop tank was because I did not know what one was.
Good.
And they look like little tiny torpedoes on the bottom of the aircraft, and they're basically for extra fuel. You store the fuel in there to, instead of having a larger kind of fuselage or to store the fuel in if they're going on long journeys. They have these extra things, but they do look like torpedo, like bombs just underneath the plane. And she said that there was no way that James should have known that because he was 2.5 and he watched Barney. He watched, you know, kids' television programs, and herself and Bruce never watched, you know, World War II documentaries, or they didn't talk about things like that.
Yeah, and I would bet most adults wouldn't look at that. Most adults, I think, would look at that and think that's a torpedo.
Yeah, that's a bomb. That's exactly, it looks like a bomb.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you'd assume it was. And when James was around 3, his dad had taken him back to the Kavanaugh Flight Museum. And he was kind of videoing James while he was there. And he's all dressed up in a little like pilot's outfit. He's got the headphones on, the little like not navy, because that's boats. Like flight hat things on.
Like RAF.
Yeah. And most kids are looking at planes and, you know, the bombers, and they're like, "Oh, that one's cool, and they just got like really childlike about it. But James is you know, he almost looks like a much older person. He's wandering around this aircraft and he's checking it as if he's doing like a pre-flight check. He's going around the airplane and checking all like the mechanics and things that you would do on a pre-flight check. And it's just incredibly bizarre. And he's saying, like, he's sitting in the cockpit and he's just talking. He's very familiar with the cockpit, and he's kind of knows what all the buttons are. And his dad said one time that when he was at work, little James had set up a makeshift cockpit in a closet, and he'd had like the chair, and he'd had like a little Playmobil type fake thing going on. And all of a sudden he come tumbling out of the closet that he was in, and his dad's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I got hit in the engine and I had to bail out." Like,
jeez.
So
he was like, "Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, great."
It happens.
Yeah, all these like really little things that he was
Very
saying
familiar
and
with, yeah.
very, very familiar with and very comfortable talking about and stuff. And at around 3 as well, he also started to draw a lot. And they were mostly the same things, and they were fighter planes and loads of bullets like being shot out, loads of different fighter planes in the air and different bullets, some planes that had kind of crashed into the water. There was a drawing of an aircraft carrier, like a boat with a runway on, and loads of fighter planes on that. But then in a different color, there was other airplanes in the air, and then the bullets. And his dad said it was if it was like he was trying to replay a movie in his drawings. And what was also strange was that he started to sign the drawings James 3. And when his dad asked him why he's writing down his names as James 3, he replied, because I'm the third James. So they had no idea. Like, they was just like, oh, all right. Kids do the darndest things.
They do.
So the Leiningers were now not quite so skeptic about the idea of reincarnation because of all these little things. So when James's night terrors began to get worse and more frequent, sometimes like 3 or 4 nights a week, Andrea's mother again suggested that they should look into reincarnation and that they should look at the work of counsellor and therapist Carol Bowman. And she's a specialist in reincarnation and she's written loads of books and things. And Carol told the Leiningers not to dismiss anything that James was saying, but instead to encourage it, ask him questions and share his memories and just encourage what he was saying. And they did start to do that, and James's night terrors began to fade. And so over time, James began to articulate in much more detail about his apparent past life as a former fighter pilot in World War II. And James's dad said that this mostly came at bedtime when he was kind of drowsy and, more relaxed. And he would start talking about his planes. And Bruce would ask his son, what plane did you used to fly? And James said, a Corsair. And then just really casually goes, they used to get flat tires all the time. And
that's very specific, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's just so blasé about it. Like, he was just like, oh,
it's no big deal.
I flew a Corsair, and God, they used to get flat tires all the time. And it's not like he's relaying facts. It's like he's relaying memories.
Yeah, like certain vehicles have, like, they're known for having.
Yeah, God, don't get that one.
Problems with the
clutch goes wrong on that all the time.
Clutch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I had one of those once, and I had to get the clutch replaced, and it's like just something that he knew, isn't it? Yeah,
just something that he knew. And so when they researched that information, it's actually a true fact that the planes, the Corsairs, used to get flat tires all the time because of the harsh landings that they used to make.
Right.
And James said that he used to fly from a carrier. And Bruce asked him, do you remember the name of the carrier? And he was like, yeah, I used to fly from a boat called Natoma. And he also said that he used to fly with somebody called Jack Larson, and that this person was kind of in his squadron. And so by this time, with all of these little kind of bits of information that are coming out, Bruce had become obsessed with researching everything that James had told him to try, and he said himself it was to try and disprove the idea of reincarnation. But the more he found, the more it was like it was just so compelling.
Yeah.
And he managed to find out that the Natoma Bay, it was the USS Natoma Bay. It was a small aircraft carrier in the Pacific during World War II. And James told his parents as well that his plane that he'd been flying had taken a direct hit to the engine and that he'd been shot down at Iwo Jima. Andrea says, who shot you down? And he just gives her this look like, the Japanese. He was like, obviously, like, he just thought that she should have known that. He was like, oh, I got hit in the engine, I was shot down. And she was like, who shot you? And he was like,
Duh.
The Japanese.
Wow.
So the Battle of Iwo Jima took place between February and March 1945, and I think it was something like a 36-day battle.
Rampage.
Yeah, and it was the US taking charge of that Iwo Jima in Japan. And like I said, Bruce had become not only obsessed with kind of researching the internet, but he started combing through military records and trying to get in touch with anybody that served aboard the Natoma Bay during the Battle of Iwo Jima. And even he was even invited to the Natoma Bay Veterans Reunion.
Oh.
So while he was there, he learned that Jack Larson, who from Natoma Bay, who James had said that was, part of his squadron, had actually survived the war. Although he was not at the reunion at the time, he was still alive. And
he was
he was still knocking around. And James's father actually managed to get in touch with him and visited him. And while he was there and kind of talking to Jack, he learned that there was only one pilot from that ship that had died and was lost during the Battle of Iwo Jima, and it was a 21-year-old Pennsylvanian named James M. Houston Jr.
Oh, that's a cool name.
Yep, but that would
James.
make James 3. James the third, because there would have been a James Senior, James Junior, and now he was James. So that's why he was signing everything James 3. So he was the third James. During Bruce's process of interviewing people, he came across a gentleman called Ralph Klaber, and he was a rear gunner on one of the US airplanes that flew from Natoma Bay. And Ralph actually said that when they took off, he was actually right next to the plane flown by James N. Houston Jr. during the raid on Iwo Jima. And it was March 3rd, 1945. And he said that Houston's plane was struck by anti-aircraft fire. And in his words, he said, I would say he was hit head on right in the middle of the engine.
Oh, he knew, didn't he?
Yeah. He said that his plane had been hit in the engine. So James and his family were actually invited to another one of the Natoma Bay Veterans reunions. So James was actually invited there this time as well. And while he was there, he would just point out people from the old black and white photos. And he would just point out and be like, oh, that's Bob Greenwald.
Oh, wow.
Like, how? There's no way that he would never have seen those photos before, and it was no way that he would ever know who these people were. But he had such a familiarity with all of these things. He also, as well, so when he went to bed every night, he had 3 GI dolls, and he went to bed with them every night. And Andrea said that when they gave James the GI men, that he'd named them, and he'd named them Billy, Walter, and Leon. And Andrea was like,
not the most common names, are they?
Yeah,
Walter.
Yeah, like what, Walter? Why would you name them that? So they said, how come you've named them that like that? And he just matter-of-factly just says, oh, they're the people that met me in heaven.
Oh.
And whilst they was at the reunion, Bruce managed to find out that those 3 people actually existed, and they had flown from the Natoma Bay and died before the Battle of Iwo Jima and before James.
Yeah.
And their names were Billy Pilar, Walter Devlin, and Leon Connor. And they'd actually been in James's squadron.
I mean, even if you wanted to act something like this out, the chances of you being able to get all of this information and in timeline order would be almost impossible.
We'll discuss it at the end, but there's obviously been a lot of criticism and a lot of studies that have gone on and things like that. But Bruce has he's been really open about it, and he said, why would I go to my 2-year-old and say, have an obsession with planes, say all this information? While they was at the reunion, little James, who was now about 4, he came into contact with James M. Houston Jr.'s surviving sibling, and it was a sister called Anne.
Oh,
And
wow.
when James met her, they kind of introduced her and they said, "Oh, this is Anne." And he just goes, "No, that's Annie." And Anne said that that was only the name that her
You
brother
would
used to
call
call
her.
her, Annie.
Oh,
And he said to his mum, "Annie wasn't my only sister, you know. I had an older sister." And they said, "You know your older sister's name?" And he was like, "Yeah, it was Ruth."
oh wow.
And he's just so blasé about it. Like he's just a
Yeah.
memory, like he's just talking. And Anne said that she couldn't believe that he knew these details. There was absolutely no way for him to know these details. He'd even mentioned something to Anne about the fact that their dad had been an alcoholic, which Anne had confirmed. He'd confirmed small things about like when he was a child and what they used to play together and things like that. And he'd also asked Anne if she still had a painting. He asked her if does she still have the painting that their mum had painted of them. And she said there's no way that he would know that information. Their mum had painted a portrait basically of them as
Hmm.
children. And it's really good actually. It's a really good
Is it?
picture. Yeah, really, really good. 2 separate ones. Yeah, there's just no
Yeah. How
way
else would he know that?
no way he would have known that. And so she was utterly convinced that James was the reincarnation of her brother. And she'd given him 2 little keepsakes that used to be her brother's. And one was a little metal bust of George Washington, probably, you know, like this big, little
Oh.
tiny bust of George Washington. And the other was a little metal course airplane, like what he used to fly. And they were the only 2 items that had been sent back to his family after his disappearance and presumed death
Oh,
in
that's
World
so
War II.
sad.
And she had given them to little James.
Oh,
And he immediately, you know, set it up on his desk in his bedroom. And Anne said that that is exactly where her brother used to keep it. His little bust of George Washington, he always used to keep on his desk in his bedroom.
yes.
So as James got older, his memories of his past life began to fade. So they say that your memories of your past life, you're more susceptible to remembering when you're young, between the ages of something like 3 and 6 or something like that, because
Mm.
you're not closed off to it, you're not conditioned,
Yeah.
you're still very open.
You're
And
ruined
that's
by adulthood and teenage years and yeah.
absolutely. But
Mm.
he still keeps those little treasured memories on his desk. He still has a passion for flying and for aircrafts, and he still has the pictures that Anne sent him of his of what his mum had drawn. And there was an interview actually, and it's just so strange. And he picks up these portraits, and he was like, "Oh, this is the portrait that my previous mum done." And he's just talking. It's like, "Yeah, my previous mum done
Yeah.
this, and it's
Like
of
everyone
my
does
old
this and
sister." And yeah, it's
yeah,
just
this is
so
normal.
strange. And he doesn't have any nightmares or anything like that anymore, and that's
Good.
all done with. But yeah, that it was just the most compelling story of
Yeah.
reincarnation that I've ever heard of, and I had to tell you guys.
Well, thank you. I
You are
just
very welcome.
do you feel like you're a little bit more of a believer hearing things like this?
Seeing all the videos and the interviews and the way he's talking and the way he's acting and things like that, it's very hard to disbelieve
Yeah.
that he didn't have past knowledge of how the airplanes worked and
Yeah.
of details of the airplane and things.
But
And
also, not just that, but I mean, I think from my point of view, because like Lewis has always been able to pick up on things really well, and he's asked, like, like we always sort of say, "Oh, all right, old man,
yeah, it was
such an old man."
such an old
Yeah,
man.
but he's like Claire said to him the other day, we're not saying you look like some old granny. It's like we're saying you're an old man because we honestly believe you've got an old soul, like you've
Yeah,
been here before, because some of the things that he naturally knows about, there isn't anywhere else that he would have got that kind of information from, or, you know, he'll know where something goes or where something's supposed to go or how something works, you know, and we think, well, how would he even know that? He's had no experience from that kind of thing before. And it's just like, I don't know, it's like he does it from memory.
Yeah.
Almost. I do believe in reincarnation. I don't know how it all works.
That's the thing that I struggle with. Scientifically, how would that work?
Well, you can't.
That's the thing that I can't get my head around.
Scientifically explain someone's soul, can you? So
but if it's there, you should be able to.
How would you explain like love?
Well, because it's your feelings and emotions, isn't it? And that's a very scientific
where does that
thing.
come from? No,
your hormones, your pituitary gland.
No, but love doesn't come from your pituitary gland.
No, but love is a very biological, like attraction and things like that. It's a very biological, it's a very necessary human thing to keep, you know, our bodies are conditioned to reproduce, to carry offspring, and to so
do you don't believe that people have got souls?
No.
You don't?
No, I believe people have got, you know, a personality and energies. And
okay, well, how do you explain personality? Because you can't see that.
Personalities is because of how your brain works and your makeup and influences from other people. And
I don't believe that.
Okay.
Because I don't think personality can be influenced by other people. I think it can have certain things, but that's behavior. That's not personality.
But personality is things like, you know, if you're quick to anger, and that can be to do that's the genetics of your brain makeup and your hormones and things like that.
Yeah, but it has to be generated from something. Like, where does it start? It's like saying, where does the universe, you know, begin and end? It's like we have no idea.
I think, you know,
it has to come from something. It has to come from something. And I don't, going back to talking about ghosts and things like that, and we're like, oh, I don't know, you know, and I'm a believer in ghosts. This is why I say I don't know how reincarnation works, because I do believe that there are ghosts, and I do believe that there is reincarnation, because how else would you explain stories like yours today?
I don't know, Kate.
Are you perplexed?
I am perplexed. I tell you what, though, this is going to be
hot flush now.
Thank you.
It's real.
This is going to be a discussion for a future Blam episode. I think
it needs it. I'm gonna make a few notes, and I'm gonna go away and I'm gonna think about it, and then I'm coming at you in the Blam episode.
All right, I'll be prepared.
But there will be a lot of people who are believers. If you've got anything to say about whether or not people have souls, which obviously they do, where personality comes from, reincarnation, anything like that, please email us in perplexedpodcasts with an S on the end @gmail.com.
Yeah.
Email in.
I'm gonna need all the help I can get, guys.
Well, so do I. You lot have seen what Sarah's been saying. So yeah, we're taking sides on this. I'm a firm believer that the human soul exists, and animals. I believe that we all have souls.
I just feel like if something exists, then you should be like air. Air exists. You can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't touch it, but scientifically you can explain it, and you can reproduce it, and you can break it down to its components of its makeup, and explain where it's come from, and, you know, how it behaves and things like that. So if the soul was a real thing, scientifically you should be able to.
Well, maybe they can. I mean, maybe I just don't know the scientific explanation of a soul.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you what, if it's out there, I'm going to find it.
I know you are.
And I'll shove it in your face.
Can't wait.
All right, cool. All right, well, until next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. Oh. Sorry.
Oh.